Today's walk is at Hoffman Park. The main entrance to the property is off of Baptist Church Road in Union Township. There is also a satellite parking area over on 625. It's a large park, over 300 plus acres to explore, many miles of trails within the property. It's one of my favorite properties to explore because regardless of the season, there's always something worthwhile to discover in this property. So please take the time to visit this location at just adjacent to the parking lot is the Knoll at Hoffman Park. From the top of this knoll, you can look over the town of Clinton sitting in the valley with elements of Spruce Run, its beach being seen in the distance. The hills behind are the ridges of the Musconetcong Range. It's a very beautiful and scenic view for landscape. It does change throughout the seasons with the foliage, so it's always worth a point to walk on top of the knoll and scan the surrounding areas for the landscape view of the park. A short distance from the parking lot, you'll notice a slope with a sign nearby. This is the designated sledding hill for the winter time. It is a unique opportunity only offered at Hoffman and not at any of the other county parks. Okay, I'm focusing on the white flower, and there's some wind, so forgive me if it blows out or shakes as it just did. But this is one of the mints in Hoffman Park. The meadows are a grassland management area. I'll talk about it in a little bit. But the mint can be identified, and this is true of all mints, because if you take the stem and roll it in your fingers, all mints have a square stem. Okay, and these are again our herbs and spices that we've used in society, as well as some wild ones out there for the life. And they can be found in many of the meadows. You just need to look for the flowers and then again roll the stem for the squareness to verify that it is a mint. At the bottom of the slope from the parking area is Mannys Pond. It's the largest pond on the property. Focus for many people with their visits, primary fishing hole. The location is stocked with trout throughout the season, and if you do have the stamp and catch one of the limits, you are permitted to keep it, but all other fish are catch and release, which include bass and the sunfish. The pond is also home to a variety of wildlife. Geese usually present on the water, swallows hunting over the water, but sightings of osprey and cormorant exist, as well as sightings for turtles and other wildlife in the area. I know it's shaded here, but the tree that I'm focused on, both of them actually, is pin oak. Pin oak is recognized by leaf due to these deep cuts, sinuses in the leaf. They also produce an acorn that is very small, not right season yet. But also, if you notice some of the branching, the lower branches of a pin oak tree dangle at a 45-degree angle down. So if you see this tree in winter and it's got this sort of tenting activity going on with its branches, you still know it's a pin oak. But again, this 45-degree down angle is one of the key characteristics to look at for the species. Hoffman has one of the healthier tree stands in the county park. What you're looking at right now are young tulip trees. Over here is a young oak tree, probably a northern red oak based on the leaf, even though it hasn't started to lobe. And then again over here is some red maple seedlings. But again, almost everything you're seeing here in the forest canopy is actually a young tree beginning to grow. There's even a young beech sapling nearby with its leaves in the paralleling veins in presence in the structure of the leaf. So again, not much barberry multiflora, it's just beginning to invade, but again, a lot of young regeneration of our native trees in existence here at Hoffman. One of the species that I haven't covered so far on the walks, I believe, is the one in front of you. This is the white oak tree. Reaches up into the upper canopy about 100 feet. Key features of the tree include the texture of the bark, the whiteness of the bark. I can see the leaves up above, but what makes the leaves distinctive are how smooth and clean cut the lobing is on the leaf. They have sort of a rounded tip, whereas members of the red oak family have points to the tips of the leaves, like a needle fiber. White oaks do not have that. They also have very smooth, clean edges, where red oaks have a bit of a more depth of cut to the sinuses, or the interior aspects of the leaf. When leaves aren't present, another way to tell red oak members and white oak members are by the acorn cap. Okay, I'm at the pond on the trail that we refer to as Crow's Road. So this is Crow's Road Pond. And what I'm trying to show off is the successional power of nature that's going on with this pond. All the vegetation in front of me is cattail. You can see it on the other side of the pond and the whole one edge of the pond. The natural tendency of a pond is to eventually fill in over a period of time, become a wetland, and then in time, a similar habitat to then what's around it. In the 20 years I've been with the county, this pond has probably shrunk by about a third due to the cattail vegetation growth, because the cattails will fall over each year and add to the sediment that's filling in the pond. And then the sediment, of course, is used by the new cattail growth the coming year. So cattails do help expedite the rate at which a pond will fill in. If you do have ponds at your home and you are seeing cattail growth, I would tell you to investigate the prospects of removing the cattails if you're looking to preserve your pond and prolong the existence of your pond, because again, the pond's natural tendency is to fill in. And if you're hearing the noise, that's the banjo strings of green frogs that are calling here at the pond. And maybe some bullfrogs. Hopefully this is coming out, but I wish this is how we typically see deer in Hunterdon County. Again, deer are one of our larger native mammals. We all know them probably being around our house, but they are a woodland creature. It's just that with our homes we create the traditional deer habitat preference. Little bit of woods with an open meadow nearby. That we then supplement with our gardens for the deer to eat. But again, in the wild, in nature, deer are a natural animal and part of the ecosystem. It's just, again, we've augmented the habitat to increase the number of population-wise of what Hunterdon can support. With all the ponds at Hoffman Park, insect ecology is something that one can explore here. Currently I'm focused on a dragonfly. I will have to look up the species, but with its perch and the fact that the double wings are laying to the side, I know it's a dragonfly over the damselfly. They are attached to the thorax of the insect, which does the motion. The head is full of the sense locations, the eyes, the pheromone aspect. The abdomen tail is actually where the insect breathes through. Again, dragonflies mate for the season. Once they emerge from their nymph stage, which is aquatic, and then once they finish breeding, they will die at the end of the season. So the young that are spawned never actually see their parents. So once emerging to the adult stage, that is the end of the life cycle and their last season to exist. This is a major invasive, one we've not had success in controlling, but this is Chinese water chestnut. It's a major invasive that will create a monotone culture over the top of a pond if left unchecked, but is very difficult to actually remove once established. It has a seed stock that can last up to 12 years. What you see is a circular pattern actually floating on the surface because it creates an air sac in its stems that it uses to maintain the leaf structure at the top of the surface, and can actually grow a stem that can be up to 10 feet in length, rooted at the bottom of the pond. In time, it creates this sort of hexagonal shape with spikes as a seed, and as I said, it infiltrates the ponds, and the native animals do not use it because it totally obscures the water surface, and there's no advantage for them to be in that water then. We've tried to hand remove it. Mechanical removal is very expensive. Chemical is not really an option for us, but it is a major infestation of an unwanted plant in the park. If you do have ponds and you do see this showing up in your pond, get on top of it as quickly as possible to keep it in check so it does not fully establish. Okay, feeding in front of me, the blue is an Indigo Bunting now staring at me. I talked about this guy at Mickwin Woods, but it's one of our summertime breeders. Does a call, fire, fire, where, here, see it. But it's one of the true blues you'll see in the environment. I will use the rest of the video to see if I can get a little bit closer and give you a better image of the bird, but it only took a step for it to spook and fly away. Okay, another tree that's well established at Hoffman, especially in hedgerows or brushy tree lines, is autumn olive. It does produce a sort of a berry type fruit that I've had a colleague make a jam from, but it gets these lancelet shaped leaves, these long narrow leaves, and then underneath them there's sort of a whiteness color to it. And that's why when you see the wind blowing, it's kind of like multicolored on the tree, because you have the white underneath and a green color on top. It's an invasive tree, non-native, but well established in New Jersey. Dominates and tries to take over meadows as a pioneering species and then prevent native species from growing underneath it by how dense it is. So it creates a artificial environment that we try to control with the brush hogging that we do at Hoffman to keep the fields open for grassland management, but the autumn olives still hold on in the edge habitat and are constantly pioneering into the meadow. Okay, the front third of Hoffman is a managed grassland habitat. It's about 120 acres if I remember the map correctly. We use a farmer to actually help maintain the meadow by limiting when he can cut the field for a mulch head crop. So from about April through October, it's a managed grassland. No cutting is permitted. Actually, I stand corrected, August 15th. To promote the area for grassland birds to breed in and maintain the habitat for all the other species that would use it. We have had threatened and endangered species here, the famous one being the bobolink. We've also had grasshopper sparrows and meadowlarks also using these grass fields. Best to be here in the morning, which I am not. This is the afternoon. And then again earlier in June would be the opportune time to be hearing the calls. Once they start breeding and having the eggs in the nest, the calls usually stop, and seeing the species is a chance occurrence. But again, Hoffman is known for bobolink, and this front fields for the grassland habitat. We recently did a reseeding here. We're trying to unify more of the fields by thinning out the tree lines to make it a more encompassing meadow for the species. Along the paved pathway at Hoffman, you may notice the yellow flower along the edge of the pavement. This is an introduced flower from Europe. I know the plant as butter and eggs, and is a common flower in the area around human disturbance and other sort of wasteland areas that are sort of disturbed by human activity but not really been reclaimed by natural means. It is a pretty little flower that insects and other wildlife might use to some degree, but again, it's not native to the area.